You know, I feel like I could accomplish just as much with this bio if I just spent the whole time saying their name over and over and over again. Because what we've got here is some classic bullet hell shenanigans. But before we can even get into what makes me say that, we have to tackle their HP shenanigans, because like, okay, we got two dudes here, and both of them have 260 HP. But as soon as we take one of them down, the other immediately gains some health. How much health they gain depends on how much they have. The maximum health they can recover is 100, but their maximum total HP is increased to 300. So if you manage to completely ignore one and take down the other, they'll only actually gain 40 health. But get one down to 100 HP when you take down the other, and that first one will gain 100 HP and be at 200. I hope I explained that okay, because whether I did or not, we're moving on. You can look at the fact that they only have one single attack as a good thing or a bad thing, because the Bloblob, the Oblobble Bloblob, if you will, is just pure projectile dodging. Can you dodge a lobbed blob? Can you dodge 48 lobbed blobs in quick succession? If the answer is yes, then this fight's already over. If no, well, neither can I, so stick with me for a minute and we should be able to at least squeak by. As usual with any bullet hell-esque attack, it can be easy to feel overwhelmed by the sheer number of things there are to dodge, so actually avoiding them comes down to two things. One, be aware of which projectiles are actually coming towards you and don't worry about all those other ones. And two, focus on the patterns. In Phase 1, we have to worry about projectiles coming from two different sources. Each one will fire 6 volleys of 4, and each volley will be perfectly spaced, which should essentially mean that only one blob from each Oblobble is actually targeting you. Whether or not you find this phase more difficult than Phase 2 is going to be pretty subjective, but one thing is for sure, this phase is much easier when both Oblobbles are on the same side of the night. Dodging the projectiles is always easier the further you are from them, so try and get into a rhythm with their firing pattern. Get in during the downtime and get away when the blobs start lobbing. Be aware that the blobs are affected slightly by gravity, so they will arc slightly, not travel in straight lines. I want to talk a little bit more about how to best dodge this when we get to the game plan, so first, the Phase 2 version of this attack. It may only be coming from one Oblobble, but it has more than enough changes to be considered even scarier than the duo. Now it will lob 8 volleys instead of 6, the time between each volley is significantly decreased and each blob is way faster. While it's nice not to have to worry about keeping the pair together, the increased frequency of attacks means that we have to be a lot more careful, only really having enough time between Bloblobs to get in one attack before retreating. But despite that, our tactic remains the same. Get in your slashes between volleys, and keep your distance otherwise. Now, as we tackle the game plan, I want to talk about how they move. Obviously, they're kinda DVD logos, only moving diagonally and bouncing off surfaces or each other. But be aware of how we can influence their movement during this battle. For one, they're pretty susceptible to knockback, which will help a lot in Phase 1 when our main priority after dodging is going to be to sort of herd them together. But secondly, if we ever strike one from behind while he's not attacking, he will immediately turn around and start flying in the opposite direction. So, in Phase 1, try to use this ability to keep them synced up. Never hit just one from behind if they're already moving together. In Phase 2, just try to avoid hitting him from behind from up close, because he can turn on a dime, and you'll almost definitely take a hit this way. Now, like I said, which phase you find more difficult is going to be pretty subjective, but regardless of which phase you find easier, I still recommend the following in Phase 1. Don't worry about focusing on just one Oblobble. Keeping track of which one you've hit is just going to be an unnecessary extra thing to focus on while you should be focused on dodging. And if you're too fixated on one, you'll pass up plenty of perfectly good opportunities to hit the other. So basically, the idea is to seize as many opportunities to hit both of them at once as you can. Spells, of course, are going to be one of the easiest ways to do that, which is just as well because opportunities to heal in this fight are few and far between. If you absolutely must, try to do it in one corner while they're at the far side of the arena. Anything else is just too risky. Now, all that leaves is just one question. How many blobs would an Oblobble lob if an Oblobble could lob blobs? Back down at the lower floor, it's the Oblobbles. Alright, well, Attuned. So far so good. They're not too different. They do have pretty similar HP scaling mechanics to what they did before. And as ever, making sure that you're getting multiple of them in your big soul hits is going to be the best way to deal with the multiple HP. Try and herd them like I've just completely failed to do, and you should be able to wrap this up no problem. Oh hey, we just got the entry for those guys. Might as well read that when we're done here. All the better to forestall the inevitable. There we go. Only took 5 hits. Yeah, not bad. Now on to Ascended. Now their health works a little bit differently. They can still heal up to 200 health, just as they could in the Attuned fight, but now whichever remains will not gain, any health, any maximum health. Their max health is still locked at 750, which is merciful, I would say. 750 is still a whole lot to take down. So hopefully that's not too much of a problem, but 1500 is still an awful lot to deal with. And so all we're gonna need to do is heal smartly here, and that's gonna carry us through the Attuned fight. But hopefully by now you're seeing why I am very worried about this particular foe. We're gonna be pretty safe and safe and sorry, it seems. Oh my goodness! All right, maybe he's gonna take me out here. But you know what? I can contend. I can contend with that. Come on, take him down. Almost got. Oh shoot! Not quite. Not quite. Ordinarily, this might be the sort of situation where I would recommend having maybe quick focus and deep focus instead of going all in on damage with your charm setup like we've done here. But, of course, that's not going to do a whole lot to prepare us for the next fight, is it? No worries, though. Just keep him at a good distance with our spells, and we should be able to have this no problem. Hey, there we go again, and we're gonna keep dodging just as well as we ever have. Ouch. Shoot. Oh, gosh. Okay. And this is the case where I really have no idea which of these phases is harder, the first or the second. First definitely has less sources, but the fact that he moves way faster makes him a lot harder to deal with. But as long as we are really careful, maybe using our Shade Cloak smart, we should be able to wrap this up kind of alright. Come on, there we go. Alright, that was Attuned. Only 3 hits taken that time. Now, the Radiant Oblobbles is one of the hardest fights in the entire game. There are so many projectiles. This fight is balanced around the ability to heal off some of the damage that you can get. They give you so much time between their attacks to be able to heal. But now we have to go all in on avoiding. And if you are just not on the ball with reaction, this is going to be hard. To the point that I would say, if you're playing on the Switch version, this is where the input lag is really going to start hurting you. My main tip, shoot! As I was saying, my main tip is just going to be very slow and steady. Avoid and evade at any cost, and if they are attacking, you want to be as far from them as possible, which I am not currently. And there's pretty much, I don't see myself beating this within a reasonable amount of time. Alright, we're gonna just use some Desolate Dives and avoid our way through that. Desolate Dive is going to be the main saving grace that we've got here, but you do have to supplement it with Soul. This is where Soul Eater heavily comes into play. Sometimes they're just going to be at an awkward angle that's going to make it difficult to deal with. But you should be able to get, a couple of hits in between each volley. Not like that. Okay, that was risky, riskier than I needed to be. Sometimes they're just not going to be at the right angle, not going to be at the right height, and that's okay. Just stay patient and keep a cool head about you. And don't worry about dashing away too much. Now, as long as you get your spells off, this is going to be okay. And this is something that I actually would highly recommend using King's Soul for if you want. Did I do it? Oh my gosh, that was so much faster. So many fewer tries than I thought it was going to take. Ah. Yeah, so if you want to use King Soul just to stay at a safe distance and build up soul without having to engage with them, that is an absolutely fine idea. You can no question do that. Alright, I'll be the first to admit that I'm pretty rough at this fight, so thanks for watching. Next up, let's fight the God Tamer.